The Galactic Council had been running for over 12,000 years. In all that time, wars happened the same way. Ships would meet in space, fight in organized patterns, and the stronger side would win. Every alien species knew the rules. Every battle followed the same basic plan. Commander Jake Morrison stood in the Great Council Hall on Varos Prime. He was there to ask if humanity could join the council. Next to him stood Lisa Hayes, a diplomat from Earth. They both wore their formal uniforms and tried to look confident. Around them sat representatives from dozens of alien races, some looking like crystals, others like clouds of gas, and some that seemed impossible to describe. The humans were new to space. They had only been traveling between stars for about 300 years. Their military was small, just 47 ships total. Compared to the great empires of the galaxy, Earth was tiny and weak. War Master Krell represented the Zetharian Empire. His body was made of living crystal that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. The Zetharians controlled 14 star systems and had over 600 warships. They were powerful, ancient, and proud. Krell had been watching the humans with something like amusement. When Jake finished presenting Earth's application for membership, Krell stood up. His voice was clear and rang through the chamber like a bell. "Your species is too young," Krell announced. "You do not understand how the galaxy works. Perhaps you need a lesson." The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at the crystal being. "I challenge Earth to a battle," Krell continued. "One fight, standard rules, neutral location. When we win, humanity will give us 3 of your outer colonies. They are in space we want anyway." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was a legal challenge under the old laws. If he said no, everyone would think humans were cowards. If he said yes, they would probably lose badly. The Zetharians had so many more ships, better weapons, and thousands of years of experience. Prime Counselor Ven, an old and wise Valorian, looked at Jake with concern in his large eyes. The counselor clearly thought this was a bad idea for the humans. Lisa touched Jake's arm gently, a question in her eyes. They had talked about something like this happening, but actually facing it was different. Jake took a breath and smiled. "We accept your challenge, War Master." The room filled with surprised whispers and gasps. "But," Jake continued, "we want to add something to the bet." Krell's crystal body seemed to glow brighter with laughter. "What could you possibly add?" "If we win, the Zetharian Empire leaves all the disputed territories, and you support our membership in the council." Now the whispers became shouts. Several council members stood up. This was a huge bet. Krell laughed, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "Agreed," Krell said, still laughing. "This will teach all young species not to be so proud." The council chairman made it official. In 30 days, the 2 fleets would meet in neutral space. The battle would be observed by witnesses from many species. The rules were simple and ancient. 2 fleets would face each other. They would fight until one side surrendered or was destroyed. As Jake and Lisa left the Great Hall, she whispered to him, "Jake, are we really doing this? They have 10 times more ships than us." Jake kept walking, his smile still in place. "They have 10 times our regular firepower. But Lisa, we are not going to fight a regular battle." "What do you mean?" "The Zetharians have studied our ships. They know what weapons we have. They have calculated how to beat us using their traditional methods." Jake stopped and looked at her. "But they do not know how humans actually fight. They have been fighting the same way for thousands of years. Every species in the galaxy fights the same way because they all follow the same rules." Lisa began to understand. "And we never agreed to those rules." "Exactly," Jake said. "War Master Krell thinks this will be like every other battle he has ever fought. He thinks we will line up our ships, fire our weapons, and lose quickly. He has no idea what is coming." "What is coming?" Lisa asked. Jake's smile got wider. "Chaos, confusion, every dirty trick humanity learned from fighting each other for thousands of years. The galaxy is about to learn that humans do not play fair. We play to win." They walked to their ship, the small diplomatic vessel that had brought them to Varos Prime. Already, Jake was sending coded messages back to Earth. The military would need to prepare. They would need to modify ships, train crews in new tactics, and gather some very special equipment. Back in the council chamber, Prime Counselor Ven approached War Master Krell. "That was unwise," Ven said softly. "We know little about these humans. Perhaps caution would have been better." Krell's crystal form sparkled with confidence. "I have studied their specifications, Counselor. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are weak. Their tactics are basic. This will be over quickly." "Perhaps," Ven said, "but there is something about these humans. They have only been in space for 3 centuries, yet they have spread to 40 systems. They have faced pirates, hostile aliens, and natural disasters. Each time, they survive. Each time, they adapt. I think you may be underestimating them." Krell waved a crystalline hand dismissively. "Survival and military victory are different." Thin E Captain Ryan Blake received the emergency summons while his ship was patrolling the outer colonies. The ESS Defiance was one of humanity's newest warships, fast and well-armed by human standards. When the message came through, Ryan immediately set course for Mars. Fleet Command was busy like an anthill when Ryan arrived. 15 other ship captains were already there, all looking confused and worried. They gathered in a secure briefing room where Admiral Kate Spencer waited for them. Kate was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been in the military for 30 years and fought in several small wars against pirates and raiders. Now she stood in front of a large screen showing star charts. "The Zetharian Empire has challenged us to battle," Kate said without any greeting. "We have 30 days to prepare. They will bring at least 60 warships. We can field maybe 30 ships total if we pull everything from patrol duties." The room went silent. Every captain knew what that meant. They would be outnumbered 2 to 1 by a force that had better technology and thousands of years of experience. "We cannot win a traditional fight," Kate continued, "so we are not going to fight traditionally." She pressed a button and the screen changed. Now it showed diagrams of human ships with strange modifications marked in red. "For the past 50 years, we have been studying every battle record we could get from the Galactic database," Kate explained. "We have watched how every species fights, and we noticed something interesting. They all fight exactly the same way." Captain Ben Foster, commander of the ESS Liberty, raised his hand. "What do you mean, Admiral?" "Every galactic battle follows a pattern," Kate said. "Fleets meet in space. They form up in traditional formations. They close to optimal range. They fire until one side wins. It is like a dance with set steps. Everyone knows the moves." She smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator. "Humans never agreed to dance that way. We are going to show the galaxy what real war looks like." Over the next week, human ships began arriving at secret shipyards. Engineers worked around the clock making modifications. The changes were strange. Some ships had their main weapons removed and replaced with equipment that looked more like mining tools or scientific instruments. Ryan watched as technicians installed dozens of new systems on the Defiance. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Sophie Grant, studied the new equipment with fascination. "These are not weapons," Sophie said, examining the specifications. "These are sensor jammers, communication disruptors, and holographic projectors." "Exactly," Ryan said. "We are not going to destroy the Zetharian fleet. We are going to confuse it, blind it, and turn its own strength against itself." Sophie looked at him with wide eyes. "That is brilliant, and completely against every rule of honorable combat." "Good thing we never promised to fight honorably," Ryan replied. At another facility, Special Forces teams practiced new tactics. Instead of traditional ship-to-ship combat training, they rehearsed boarding actions, sabotage techniques, and rapid strike missions. Commander Greg Palmer led a team of 60 Marines through simulation after simulation. "Speed is everything," Greg told his troops. "We get in, we disrupt their systems, we get out. We are not there to kill anyone. We are there to cause chaos." Meanwhile, civilian engineers worked on projects that made the military officers uncomfortable. Alex Chen, a specialist in mining operations, found himself explaining how industrial equipment could be used in combat. "This is a standard mining charge," Alex showed Admiral Spencer. "We use them to break apart asteroids. They are completely legal, not classified as weapons by any galactic law." But they are nuclear devices, Kate pointed out. Sure, Alex agreed. But they are mining tools. The electromagnetic pulse they create is just a side effect that happens to scramble ship systems if detonated close enough. Kate smiled again. I like how you think. Intelligence officers analyzed every recorded Zetharian battle going back centuries. They found patterns in how Krell commanded his forces. The Zetharians loved perfect geometric formations. They believed in coordinated, synchronized attacks. Their entire military philosophy was based on order and precision. They fight like a machine, Jake Morrison told the strategy meeting. He had returned from Veros Prime and was helping coordinate the preparations. Every ship knows its place, every commander follows the plan. It is beautiful and efficient. And completely dependent on constant communication, Sophie added. She had been studying the data for days. If they lose communication, the whole formation falls apart. Each ship captain has to know what every other ship is doing. So we disrupt their communication, Ben Foster said. We make it impossible for them to coordinate. Not just communication, Jake corrected. We disrupt everything. Their sensors, their targeting, their command structure. We introduce so much chaos that their perfect formation becomes a weakness instead of a strength. As the days passed, the human fleet began to look very different. Ships carried unusual equipment. Crews trained in tactics that seemed crazy. Small drone fighters were loaded by the thousands, each one carrying sensor equipment instead of weapons. Lisa Hayes visited the fleet to see the preparations. She walked through the hangar bay of the Defiance with Ryan. This does not look like a war fleet, she observed. Half of this equipment looks like something from a science vessel. That is the idea, Ryan explained. Krell expects to see warships. He will scan us, see our weapons, and calculate his advantage. What he will not see is all the other equipment. The things that are not classified as weapons but can be weaponized. Are we really going to win this? Lisa asked quietly. Ryan stopped walking and looked at her seriously. Lisa, every species in the galaxy has been fighting the same way for 12,000 years. They have rules, traditions, and honor codes that everyone follows. But humans spent thousands of years fighting each other. We fought in every possible way. We cheated, we lied, we used psychology and fear and confusion. We learned that the best fight is the one your enemy never saw coming. So we are going to cheat, Lisa said. We are going to do whatever it takes to win while losing as few lives as possible, Ryan corrected. On both sides. That is the real human way of war. End it fast, end it decisively, and make sure everyone lives to go home afterward. On the last day before the fleet departed, Admiral Kate Spencer addressed all the ship commanders via video link. The combat zone was empty space, far from any star or planet. It was neutral territory, chosen specifically because neither side had any advantage here. Observer ships from 12 different species took up positions at a safe distance. Their sensors were recording everything that would happen. This battle would be studied and analyzed for years to come. War Master Krell arrived first with his fleet of 60 warships. The Zetharian vessels were impressive. Each one gleamed like a massive crystal, beautiful and deadly. They moved into formation with perfect precision, creating a sphere pattern that had won hundreds of battles across the centuries. Every ship knew exactly where to be, creating overlapping fields of fire that could hit any target from multiple angles. Krell stood in the command center of his flagship, the Pride of Zetheria. Around him, his officers monitored dozens of displays. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. The humans would arrive soon, and this would be over quickly. 60 ships against their small fleet, his second-in-command said. This seems almost unfair, War Master. They accepted the challenge, Krell replied. Perhaps they are braver than I thought, or more foolish. Then the human fleet arrived, and confusion spread through the Zetharian command center. Only 12 ships emerged from hyperspace. The ESS Defiance led the small formation, along with the Liberty, the Courage, and 9 other vessels. They were outnumbered 5-1. They should have brought every ship they had, yet they came with barely enough for a patrol squadron. Is this a joke? Krell demanded. Did they not have the courage to bring their full fleet? The human ships moved into a loose cluster and simply stopped. They did not form up. They did not take defensive positions. They just floated there in space, waiting. Captain Ryan Blake sat in his command chair aboard the Defiance, watching the Zetharian formation on his main screen. It was indeed beautiful. Perfect geometry, optimal positioning, textbook fleet doctrine. Counting down to Phase 1, Sophie Grant reported from the tactical station. All ships report ready. Steady, Ryan said calmly. Let them come to us. On the Pride of Zetheria, Krell opened a communication channel to all frequencies. Commander Morrison, did Earth not have more ships to send? Or did you finally realize the futility of this challenge? Jake Morrison's voice came back calm and steady. All necessary ships are accounted for, War Master. Shall we begin? Krell felt insulted by the human's tone. He cut the communication and ordered his fleet forward. The 60 Zetharian ships advanced in perfect formation, maintaining their sphere pattern as they closed the distance. Standard battle doctrine said they should close to optimal firing range, deliver a massive coordinated strike, and the battle would be over in minutes. The humans had no chance against such overwhelming force. The distance closed. 2 million kilometers. 1.5 million. 1 million. All weapons charged, Krell's weapons officer reported. Ready to fire on your command. Prepare to fire, Krell ordered. On the Defiance, Sophie counted down. 800,000 kilometers, 700,000, 600,000. Now, Ryan said quietly. Every human ship vanished. Not destroyed, not jumped away. They simply disappeared from every sensor. The Zetharian formation suddenly had no targets. Weapons locked on empty space. 60 warships were ready to fire at nothing. What happened? Krell shouted. Where did they go? His science officer was frantically checking his instruments. Sensors are reading multiple contacts, hundreds of contacts. No, thousands. War Master, I cannot determine which are real ships and which are false readings. The empty space around the Zetharian fleet was suddenly full of phantom signals. Every sensor showed ships everywhere. Targeting computers could not lock on because there were too many possible targets. Impossible, Krell said. Their technology is not advanced enough for perfect stealth. He was right. Human ships could not truly disappear. But they had scattered thousands of small drones throughout the combat zone over the past few minutes, each one broadcasting a signal that looked like a ship. And the real ships were using every trick they knew to mask their actual signatures among the sea of false ones. They are cheating, an officer said. Fire at everything, Krell ordered, his voice tight with anger. Destroy all contacts. The Zetharian fleet opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space. Missiles streaked toward targets. The combat zone lit up like a fireworks display as the observers watched in amazement. Drones exploded by the hundreds, but there were thousands more. And in the chaos of all that weapons fire, the real human ships moved. The ESS Liberty appeared directly underneath the Zetharian sphere formation. Captain Ben Foster had brought his ship in so close that the Zetharians could not target him without risking hitting their own vessels. Their perfect formation had become a trap. Deploy packages, Ben ordered. Hundreds of small cylinders ejected from the Liberty's hull. They spread out through the formation, small and hard to track among all the weapons fire and explosions. The Zetharians barely noticed them. Then they detonated. Alex Chen's mining charges created massive electromagnetic pulses. They were designed to shatter asteroids, not fight ships, so they were completely legal under galactic law. The fact that they also scrambled electronic systems was just a side effect that hit 30 Zetharian ships simultaneously. Sensors went dark. Communication systems failed. Targeting computers reset. For a few crucial seconds, half the Zetharian fleet was blind and deaf. The Defiance emerged from the sensor chaos directly behind Krell's flagship. Ryan's crew had been waiting for this moment. Sophie coordinated the targeting with perfect precision. Targeting their communication arrays, not their main hull, she reported. Firing. The Defiance's weapons were not trying to destroy the Pride of Zetheria. They were surgically removing its ability to communicate with the rest of the fleet. War Master Krell suddenly found himself unable to give orders to his ships. Other human vessels appeared at key points throughout the formation, The Courage, commanded by Captain Nina Walsh, went after sensor arrays. The small corvette Swift, under Lieutenant Alex Murphy, raced through the Zetharian fleet, deploying even more sensor drones and jamming equipment. "This is not warfare," Krell transmitted on emergency backup channels. "This is chaos. This is dishonorable." Admiral Kate Spencer's voice came across all frequencies from her command ship, positioned safely outside the combat zone. "This is human warfare, War Master. We do not fight for honor. We fight to win. And we have been fighting each other for thousands of years, learning every trick and tactic. You fight opponents who follow rules. We fight opponents who make up new rules every day." The Zetharian fleet tried to reform. Captains used their training to fall back on secondary protocols. But every time they started to organize, human ships appeared from unexpected angles. More drones deployed. More jamming filled the communication channels. Then the humans did something that shocked everyone watching. The Courage launched boarding pods. Small armored capsules shot from the human ship and attached to Zetharian vessels. They cut through hulls, and teams of humans in combat armor poured inside. But they were not there to kill anyone. They ran straight for engineering sections and began sabotaging systems. Greg Palmer led his team through the corridors of a Zetharian cruiser. The crystalline crew members tried to stop them, but the humans used non-lethal weapons. Stun grenades, shock batons, and gas that put the Zetharians to sleep without harming them. "Plant the jammers and set the charges," Greg ordered. "We are not here to hurt anyone. We are here to break things." His team worked fast. They installed jamming equipment that would interfere with internal communications. They set small charges on key systems that would force the ship to shut down main power. Then they retreated back to their pods and launched to the next target. All across the battlefield, human teams did the same thing. They were not conquering ships. They were crippling them. War Master Krell watched his perfect fleet fall apart. Ships lost communicate. The battle continued for 7 hours, though it stopped being a real battle after the first 30 minutes. What followed was more like a demonstration. The human fleet showed the watching galaxy every unconventional tactic they had developed. The small corvette Swift, commanded by Lieutenant Alex Murphy, performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. It flew through the Zetharian formation at speeds that made observers gasp. Alex was using gravitational slingshots off the larger Zetharian ships themselves, gaining speed while deploying more drones. It was reckless and brilliant. "They are using our own mass against us," a Zetharian science officer reported to Krell. "That small ship is treating our fleet like an obstacle course." Captain Nina Walsh on the Courage demonstrated another human innovation. Her ship suddenly split apart. Not damaged, but deliberately separating into 3 smaller vessels. The Zetharians had not known human ships could do that. Each section was still functional, could still maneuver and fight. One ship had become 3 targets. "How many more surprises do they have?" Krell asked, but nobody could answer him. The human boarding teams continued their work. Commander Greg Palmer and his Marines had hit 5 different Zetharian ships. They moved so fast that by the time defenders organized, the humans were already leaving. Each attack lasted less than 10 minutes, but left ships crippled and confused. Inside one Zetharian vessel, a young officer named Vex watched human soldiers run past. They moved with practiced efficiency, placing devices on control panels and critical systems. One human stopped and looked at Vex. "Stay down," the human said through a translator. "We are not here to hurt you." Then they were gone, running to their extraction point. 30 seconds later, the devices activated. The ship's main power flickered and died. Life support stayed on, but weapons and engines went dark. Vex and the other crew members were safe, but their ship was now dead in space. Back on the Defiance, Sophie Grant coordinated the overall attack pattern. She had created a computer program that tracked every Zetharian ship and assigned human assets to create maximum confusion with minimum actual damage. "Ship 47 is trying to re-establish formation with Ship 12, she reported, sending the Swift to disrupt. "Ship 23 has restored partial communications," another officer called out. "They are trying to coordinate a counterattack, broadcasting false orders on their command frequency," Sophie responded. "They will think the counterattack has been cancelled." Ryan watched his tactical officer work and felt a moment of pride. This was what humanity did best. They adapted, improvised, and thought in ways that other species found incomprehensible. The observer ships watched everything with growing amazement. Representatives from the Valorian Union, the Celtic Confederacy, and 10 other major powers recorded every moment. Some were horrified, others were fascinated. All of them were learning that everything they knew about warfare had just become outdated. On the Valorian observer ship, Commander Tarn spoke quietly to his staff. They are not fighting to destroy. They are fighting to dominate psychologically. Every tactic is designed to create confusion and fear without actually killing anyone. Is that even warfare? A junior officer asked. It is the most efficient warfare I have ever seen, Tarn replied. Look at the results. 60 ships neutralized by 12. And the casualty count is 0 on both sides. 0. When has any battle in history achieved that? The Celtic observer, a being made of living energy, pulsed with confusion. They violate every principle of honorable combat. They use deception, confusion, and psychological manipulation. This is not how civilized species fight. No, Tarn agreed. It is how a species that has been fighting itself for thousands of years fights. They did not learn warfare from other species. They learned it from each other. And that makes them far more dangerous than we realized. War Master Krell tried one last time to organize a counterattack. He managed to get 10 ships together, vessels that still had full functionality. They formed up and prepared to target the Defiance with concentrated fire. Finally, Krell said, now we show them what real firepower means. The 10 ships fired simultaneously, their weapons converging on where the Defiance had been. But the human ship had already moved. And in the moment the Zetharians fired, they revealed their positions clearly. 6 human ships appeared around the Zetharian formation and fired precisely at their weapons arrays. Not to destroy the ships, but to disable their ability to shoot back. In 5 seconds, the last organized Zetharian resistance was disarmed. Krell stared at his displays in disbelief. It had been a trap. The humans had let him organize those 10 ships just so they could eliminate the last real threat in one coordinated strike. They are better at this than we are, his executive officer said quietly. Not stronger, not more advanced. Just better at the art of warfare itself. Admiral Kate Spencer watched the battle from her command ship and nodded with satisfaction. Begin Phase 4, she ordered. Humanitarian assistance. The human fleet stopped attacking. Instead, they started helping. Ships that had been crippling Zetharian vessels now moved to assist them. The Liberty pulled alongside a drifting Zetharian cruiser and extended repair drones. Human engineers in spacesuits crossed over to help restore basic systems. On the Courage, Captain Nina Walsh opened communication with a damaged Zetharian destroyer. This is Captain Walsh. We are sending over repair teams to help with your power systems. Do you need medical assistance? The Zetharian captain was too shocked to speak at first. The humans had just beaten them badly. Now they were offering help. Why? The Zetharian finally asked. Why help us? Because the battle is over, Nina replied simply. You are not our enemy anymore. You are just people who need help. This confused the Zetharians more than anything else that had happened. The galaxy did not work this way. You fought your enemy until they were destroyed or surrendered. You did not beat them and then help them. But humans did exactly that. Greg Palmer and his Marines, who had been sabotaging Zetharian ships, now returned to those same ships with repair equipment. They worked alongside Zetharian crews to fix what they had broken. The same Marines who had stunned defenders now helped those same defenders restore their ships. Ryan Blake sent a message directly to War Master Krell. War Master, we are prepared to assist with repairs to the Pride of Zetheria. We can have your communications restored within 2 hours. Do we have permission to send our engineering teams? Krell felt his pride war with practical need. His ship was crippled. His fleet was scattered and damaged. And the humans were offering to fix it all. Why? Krell asked, echoing what the other captain had said. We challenged you. We tried to take your colonies. Why help us? Ryan's answer was honest and simple. Because humans learned a long time ago that the best way to end a war is to turn enemies into friends. We beat you, War Master. That is done. Now we want to make sure you and your crews get home safe. That is just who we are. Krell was silent for a long moment. Then he made his decision. Permission granted. And Commander Blake, I surrender. The Zetharian Empire acknowledges defeat. The observers recorded the official surrender. A fleet of 60 ships defeated by 12. Not through superior firepower, but through tactics that nobody had ever seen before. Tactics that broke every rule of civilized warfare while somehow being more civilized than traditional combat. As human repair crews spread across the battlefield. 3 days after the battle, the Galactic Council reconvened on Veros Prime. The Great Chamber was more crowded than usual. Every major species had sent representatives. Everyone wanted to hear about what the observers had witnessed. War Master Krell stood before the council. His crystalline form was dimmer than before, a sign of humility in Zetharian culture. The proud warrior who had challenged humanity now spoke with a different tone. I challenge the humans, believing them weak and unprepared, Krell said, his voice reaching every corner of the chamber. I was wrong. They are not unprepared. They are prepared for a different kind of warfare than we have ever known. He paused, and the council waited silently for him to continue. They do not fight to demonstrate superiority or claim honorable victory. They fight to end conflicts as quickly as possible, with minimum loss of life on all sides. They defeated my fleet of 60 ships with only 12 vessels, and they did so without killing a single member of my crew. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some of approval, others of concern. Prime Counselor Ven spoke, his old voice thoughtful. War Master Krell, your report and the observer records show that humanity violated the spirit of every combat protocol we have established. They employed tactics we would consider dishonorable. They used deception, confusion, and psychological warfare. How do you explain accepting defeat from such methods? Krell's form brightened slightly. Honored Counselor, I asked myself the same question. Then I realized something. We call their tactics dishonorable because they break our traditions. But whose traditions? Who decided how warfare should be conducted? He gestured around the chamber. We did. Species that have been in space for thousands of years. We created rules that made sense to us, but humans never agreed to those rules. They fought among themselves for thousands of years before reaching space. They learned every possible way to wage war. And they learned that the most honorable war is the one that ends quickly with the fewest deaths. Jake Morrison stood from the human delegation area. Honored counselors, humanity comes from a world where we fought ourselves constantly. We developed every kind of warfare imaginable because we were fighting opponents who thought like us, who adapted like us. We learned hard lessons from millions of deaths across thousands of years. He walked to the center of the chamber where speakers traditionally stood. You call our tactics dishonorable. We understand that. But we call your tactics wasteful. You have established rules that prolong conflicts, that ensure battles are fought until one side is destroyed. We fight to win quickly, to minimize casualties, and to create conditions where peace becomes possible. Lisa Hayes stood beside him. If our methods seem harsh, consider the results. 0 casualties. War Master Krell's entire fleet returns home. Their crews are alive and well. Compare that to traditional galactic warfare, where fleet battles often result in thousands of deaths. Which is truly more honorable? The council chamber erupted in debate. Some species were outraged by human methods. The Celtic representatives stood, their energy form pulsing with anger. You mock the traditions that have governed warfare for 12,000 years. You fight without honor, without respect for your opponent. This is chaos, not warfare. But Commander Tarn of the Valorian Union stood as well. With respect, I disagree. I observed the battle personally. What I saw was not chaos. It was controlled precision. Every human action was calculated to achieve victory with minimum harm. They could have destroyed the Zetharian fleet. Instead, they disabled it. Then they helped repair it. They cheated, another voice called out. Admiral Kate Spencer, present via holographic link from Earth, responded to that. We did not cheat. We simply refuse to play a game where the rules favor those who have been playing longest. War is not a sport. It is not about honor or glory. It is about survival, protection, and achieving necessary goals. If you want to call efficiency and tactical innovation cheating, that is your choice. We call it winning. The debate continued for hours. Some species supported humanity's approach. Others condemned it. The chamber was divided in a way it had not been for centuries. Finally, Prime Counselor Ven called for silence. The ancient Valorian had been listening carefully to every argument. I have lived for over 400 years, Ven said slowly. I have witnessed dozens of wars. I have seen millions die in battles that followed all our honored traditions. And I have watched as species destroyed each other while claiming to fight honorably. He turned his large eyes toward Jake and Lisa. Humanity's application for council membership is approved. The chamber erupted again, but Ven raised a hand for silence. But with conditions. Humanity will establish a military academy, open to all council species. You will teach your methods, your tactics, your way of thinking about warfare. Not so we can imitate you, but so we can understand you. So we can learn from you. And perhaps, so we can finally evolve beyond 12,000 years of the same destructive patterns. Jake bowed respectfully. We accept those conditions, Prime Counselor. It would be an honor to share what we have learned. Krell approached the human delegation as the session ended. Other council members watched with interest as the Zetharian War Master stood before the humans he had challenged. Commander Morrison, Captain Blake, Admiral Spencer, Krell said formally, I owe you thanks. You could have destroyed my fleet. You could have humiliated the Zetharian Empire. Instead, you showed us our weaknesses and then helped us repair our ships. You treated us with a kindness I did not expect. We are not your enemy, War Master, Lisa said gently. We never were. You challenged us, and we responded. But now the challenge is over. Now we can work together. Krell's form brightened. The Zetharian Empire will honor all terms of our agreement. We withdraw from disputed territories and support your council membership. And I would like to send officers to your military academy, if you will accept them. Jake smiled. We would be honored to have them. As the council session concluded and representatives began to leave, smaller conversations happened throughout the chamber. Diplomatic relations were being established, trade agreements discussed, and multiple species expressed interest in the human military academy. The Celtic representative, who had been so angry earlier, approached cautiously. I still believe your methods lack honor, but I cannot argue with the results. Perhaps my people could benefit from understanding your perspective. Ryan Blake, who had traveled from the fleet for the council meeting, nodded. Understanding is all we ask. We do not expect everyone to fight like humans, but maybe knowing how we think will help prevent future conflicts. Over the following weeks, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. The recordings from observer ships were analyzed by military academies on 100 worlds. Tactical experts studied every human move, trying to understand the thinking behind it. Some species began experimenting with similar tactics. Others doubled down on traditional methods. But everyone agreed on one thing: humanity had changed warfare forever. Captain Nina Walsh received a promotion and was assigned to help design the curriculum for the new military academy. Commander Greg Palmer's Special Forces tactics became required study for several alien military branches. Lieutenant Sophie Grant found herself giving lectures to audiences of alien officers who hung on every word. War Master Krell returned to the Zetharian Empire, where he faced questions from the Emperor himself. The Emperor had expected glory and expansion. Instead, Krell brought news of defeat and withdrawn claims. You have shamed the Empire, the Emperor said coldly. No, Your Majesty, Krell replied. I have learned a valuable lesson, one that may save the Empire in the future. The galaxy is changing. Species like humanity are bringing new ways of thinking. We can resist that change and be left behind, or we can adapt and grow stronger. He told the Emperor everything about the battle, about human tactics, their efficiency, their mercy. They beat us, Krell concluded, But they did so in a way that left us capable of learning from the experience. That is a kind of warfare I had never imagined. And it may be the future of combat in this galaxy. The Emperor was silent for a long time. Then he made his decision. Send your best officers to the Human Academy. We will learn from this defeat, and perhaps we will emerge stronger. 6 months after the battle, the Earthfleet Military Academy opened its doors on Luna, Earth's moon. The facility was massive, designed to accommodate students from dozens of species with different environmental needs. Captain Ryan Blake stood at the entrance on opening day, watching as ships arrived from across the galaxy. Zetharian officers stepped out alongside Valorian tacticians. Kelthic energy beings floated next to solid-form Draconians. All had come to learn. Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, gave the opening address to the first class of 300 students. "Welcome to Earthfleet Military Academy," he said. "You are here to learn how humans fight. But more importantly, you are here to learn how humans think about fighting. We do not see war as inevitable or glorious. We see it as a problem that sometimes must be solved. Our goal is always the same: end the conflict as fast as possible with the least harm to everyone involved." He looked across the assembled students from so many different worlds. Some of you come from species with thousands of years of military tradition. You may find our methods disturbing or dishonorable. That is fine. We are not asking you to abandon your own cultures. We are asking you to expand your thinking. To consider the changes came slowly at first, then faster, as more species adopted human-influenced tactics. Wars that might have lasted years were ended in weeks. Casualty rates dropped across the galaxy as commanders learned to focus on disabling rather than destroying enemy forces. 2 years after the battle with the Zetharians, Admiral Kate Spencer sat in her office reviewing reports from recent conflicts. The Drakenor-Veltine border war had ended in 3 weeks with only 47 casualties, down from projected thousands. The commanders on both sides had used tactics learned at the Human Academy. "We are actually making a difference," she said to Jake, who had stopped by for a meeting. "Look at these numbers. Conflicts are shorter. Death rates are down by 70% in wars involving Academy graduates." Jake nodded, but his expression was thoughtful. "Not everyone is happy about it. There is a growing faction in the Council that thinks we have weakened galactic civilization by removing the honor from combat." "The honor that killed billions over thousands of years?" Kate asked dryly. "That honor," Jake confirmed. "Some species see warfare as a testing ground for courage and nobility. They think our methods are cowardly." Kate leaned back in her chair. "Let them think what they want. Our methods work, and more importantly, they save lives." At the Military Academy, the second-year class was deep into advanced tactical studies. Among the students was a young Zetharian officer named Trev, who had lost a family member in an earlier war. Trev had been skeptical when first assigned to study under humans, but now found himself fascinated. Captain Ryan Blake, now an instructor at the Academy, was teaching a class on adaptive combat strategies. "Traditional galactic warfare assumes both sides will follow known patterns," Ryan explained to the class. "You study your opponent's tactics, plan counters, and execute. But what happens when your opponent does something unexpected?" A Valorian student raised a hand. "You adapt. You change your plan." "Correct," Ryan said. "But how fast can you adapt? If your entire military doctrine is based on rigid formations and established protocols, adaptation takes time. Time that your enemy can exploit." He brought up a simulation on the screen. "Human military training emphasizes flexibility over perfection. We would rather have a good plan executed quickly than a perfect plan executed slowly, because in combat, the situation changes constantly." Trev spoke up, his translator converting his crystalline chimes into standard galactic. "Instructor Blake, Zetharian doctrine emphasizes perfect coordination. Every ship knows its role. Is there no value in that?" "There is enormous value," Ryan acknowledged. "Coordination is powerful. But what happens when coordination breaks down? When communications fail? When commanders must act independently?" He pulled up footage from the battle 2 years ago. "Watch this section. When we disrupted your fleet's communications, coordination became a weakness. Ship captains did not know how to act independently because they had always operated as part of a coordinated whole. The students watched as the Zetharian formation fell apart. Now watch this, Ryan continued, showing human ship movements. Our ships had a general plan, but each captain made independent decisions based on the situation. The Defiance did not need to ask permission to target communication arrays. Captain Walsh on the Courage did not wait for orders to deploy boarding teams. Each commander understood the overall goal and found their own way to contribute. Trev nodded slowly. So we were rigid. You were flexible. That was the difference. That was part of the difference, Ryan agreed. The other part was that we were willing to do things you had never seen before. Things that broke your assumptions about how warfare works. Another student, a Celtic energy being named Zor, pulsed with a question. Instructor, my people still believe your tactics lack honor. How do you respond to that criticism? Ryan considered his answer carefully. Zor, I think the real question is, what do we mean by honor? Is it honorable to follow traditions that result in unnecessary deaths? Is it honorable to fight in ways that prolong suffering? Or is true honor found in ending conflicts quickly and minimizing harm to everyone involved? My people would say honor is in facing your enemy directly, fighting courageously, accepting defeat with dignity, Zor replied. And we did all those things, Ryan pointed out. We faced the Zetharian fleet directly. We fought, though not in the way they expected. And when War Master Krell surrendered, we accepted with respect and immediately offered assistance. We just added one thing your people do not usually include in their definition of honor. We fought smart. The discussion continued, and Ryan was pleased to see students from different species talking to each other, sharing perspectives. This was perhaps the Academy's greatest achievement. Not just teaching tactics, but creating dialogue between species that had never really understood each other. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council, humanity's influence continued to grow. Lisa Hayes had become Earth's permanent representative, and she worked closely with Prime Counselor Ven on various initiatives. The younger species are embracing human methods quickly, Ven told her during a private meeting. The older species are more resistant, but even they cannot ignore the results. Are we causing too much change too fast? Lisa asked. Some species have military traditions going back thousands of years. We have disrupted that in just 2 years. Ven's large eyes blinked slowly. Change is always disruptive, but necessary change is worth the disruption. Lisa, in my 400 years, I have seen the same wars fought the same ways over and over. Different species, same patterns, same tragic results. Humanity has broken those patterns. Some will hate you for it, but many more will thank you. He paused, then continued. You know what I find most interesting about humans? You do not claim moral superiority. You do not say your way is the only right way. You simply offer your methods and let others decide. That humility makes your influence even more powerful. Lisa smiled. We learned that lesson the hard way, too. Humans spent centuries trying to force our own people to accept one way of thinking, one set of beliefs. It never worked. We found that the best way to spread ideas is to demonstrate their value and let people choose. Back on Earth, life continued in interesting ways. The battle with the Zetharians had made humanity famous across the galaxy. Trade increased. Cultural exchanges happened. Earth became a destination for aliens curious about the species that had changed warfare. Commander Greg Palmer, retired from active service, now ran a civilian consulting firm that helped non-military organizations think about conflict resolution. His methods were being used in corporate negotiations, diplomatic disputes, and even family counseling. The principles are the same, Greg explained in an interview. Identify the real problem. Find the fastest solution that causes the least harm. Do not get locked into traditional ways of thinking. It works for warfare, and it works for life. Lieutenant Sophie Grant had become Dr. Sophie Grant, teaching at multiple universities. Her course on adaptive systems theory attracted students from dozens of species. She taught that the same principles humans used in warfare applied to business, science, and social organization. Rigidity is fragile, she told her students. Systems that cannot adapt break when circumstances change. Whether you are talking about military formations, business models, or social structures, flexibility is strength. 5 years after the famous battle, War Master Krell visited Earth for the first time. He came as part of a Zetharian diplomatic delegation, but he also came for personal reasons. Jake Morrison met him at the spaceport. The two had communicated regularly over the years, developing an unexpected friendship. "Welcome to Earth, Krell," Jake said warmly. "Thank you, Admiral Morrison," Krell replied. His translator had improved, capturing nuances better. "I have wanted to visit your homeworld for a long time." They walked through the spaceport, and Krell observed everything with interest. Earth was different from Zetharian worlds. More chaotic, more diverse, more unpredictable. "This explains much," Krell said. "Your planet is like your warfare. Many different elements existing together, sometimes in conflict, always adapting." Jake laughed. "That is actually very insightful. Yes, Earth is messy. We have hundreds of cultures, thousands of languages, countless different ways of thinking. We have been fighting and cooperating and learning from each other for thousands of years. That is where our tactical flexibility comes from." They visited the military academy, where Krell met with Zetharian students. The young officers treated him with respect, but also asked challenging questions. They had learned to think differently here. "War Master, do you regret challenging humanity?" one student asked. Krell's crystal form reflected the light thoughtfully. "I regret my arrogance. I do not regret the challenge itself. That battle taught me more than 100 victories would have. It showed me that the Zetharian Empire, for all our strength, had become stagnant. We fought the same way for thousands of years because we never had reason to change. Humans forced us to evolve." That evening, Jake and Krell stood on an observation deck, looking down at Earth. "Your world is beautiful," Krell said. "Chaotic, but beautiful." "It is home," Jake replied. "Krell, can I ask you something? What do you think when you look back at our battle now?" Krell was silent for a moment. "I think about how many of my crew would have died in a traditional battle. Thousands, probably. Instead, everyone went home. Yes, we lost. Yes, it damaged Zetharian pride. But everyone lived. That is worth more than pride." "That is why we fight the way we do," Jake said softly. "Because we believe life is worth more than glory." The years continued to pass, and human influence spread further. The Academy graduated hundreds of officers who returned to their home fleets with new ideas. Some species established their own schools based on human principles. Others modified their existing military traditions to incorporate flexibility and adaptability. Wars still happened. The galaxy was too large, too diverse, and too full of competing interests for peace to reign everywhere. But the wars were different now. Shorter, less destructive, more focused on achieving specific goals rather than total victory. Admiral Kate Spencer, now in her 70s, gave a lecture at the Academy's 10th anniversary celebration. She looked out at an audience that included students, graduates, and representatives from across the galaxy. 10 years ago, humanity fought one battle that changed everything, she said. "We did not win because we were stronger or smarter. We won because we thought differently, because we refused to accept that war had to follow rules we never agreed to." She paused, looking across the audience. But the real victory was not on that battlefield. The real victory is happening every day, across the galaxy, as species learn to think about conflict in new ways. As death rates drop, as wars end faster, as enemies become friends more quickly. Some still criticize our methods. They say we remove the honor from warfare. But I ask you, where is the honor in unnecessary death? Where is the glory in prolonged suffering? True honor is in protecting life, ending conflicts efficiently, and building peace. The audience applauded, a sound that echoed through the great hall. Later, at a private dinner with the Academy's staff and distinguished guests, Ryan Blake raised a glass. "To the moment the galaxy realized that humans rewrite the rules," he said. "Not because we wanted to show off, but because we wanted to show that there is a better way." Jake Morrison added his own toast. To the future, may it be less bloody than the past, and may humanity's gift to the stars be not better weapons, but better wisdom. They drank, and around them conversations flowed. Zetharians talked with Valorians. Celtics debated with Draconians. Humans sat among aliens from a dozen worlds, all working together to build a better future. The galaxy had indeed realized something important that day when 12 human ships faced 60 Zetharian vessels. They realized that the rules everyone had followed for 12,000 years were not laws of nature. They were choices. And choices could be changed. Humanity had changed them, not through force, but through demonstration. They showed the galaxy that war did not have to be glorious, or honorable, or traditional. It just had to end, quickly, and with as little harm as possible. And once it ended, the real work could begin. The work of building peace, fostering understanding, and ensuring that the next generation had fewer reasons to fight. That was humanity's real contribution to the stars. Not a better way to wage war, but a better understanding of why peace should always be the goal, and war should only ever be the shortest possible path back to peace. The moment the galaxy realized that changed everything. There might be more than one way to approach warfare. Lisa Hayes, now serving as the Academy's diplomatic liaison, added her thoughts. War is the failure of diplomacy. But when war becomes necessary, it should be conducted in a way that makes future diplomacy possible. That is the human philosophy. Fight hard, but fair. Win decisively, but mercifully. And always remember that your enemy today might be your ally tomorrow. The first semester began with classes on unconventional tactics, psychological warfare, and rapid adaptation strategies. Students were challenged to think in ways they never had before. Helping damaged Zetharian vessels, the watching galaxy began to understand something important. Humans did not just fight differently. They thought about war differently. They did not see it as a test of honor or strength. They saw it as a problem to solve. And like any problem, the best solution was the one that achieved the goal with minimum cost. In this case, the goal was victory. The minimum cost was 0 casualties. On the Valorian observer ship, Commander Tarn made a note in his report. Recommendation: all Valorian military officers should attend human warfare seminars. These beings have revolutionized combat doctrine in a single battle. We must learn from them or risk being left behind. Similar reports were being written on every observer ship. The galaxy had just witnessed something that would change military thinking forever. And the battle was not even over yet. The humans were still helping repair damaged ships, still treating wounded Zetharian crew members, still acting like the war had ended the moment surrender was offered. War Master Krell watched human engineers work on his ship and felt something strange. Not anger or shame, but respect. The humans had beaten him completely. Then they had shown him mercy and kindness. That was a kind of strength he had never encountered before. Perhaps, he said quietly to his executive officer, we have much to learn from these humans. Ion. Sensors gave false readings. Captains fired at what they thought were enemy vessels, but hit their own allies instead because false orders made them think those ships were compromised. The psychological warfare was even worse than the physical attacks. The humans started broadcasting music across all frequencies. Loud, aggressive music that overloaded Zetharian audio processing. Mixed in were false tactical orders in perfect Zetharian language, creating more confusion. Krell felt something he had never experienced in 300 years of military service. He felt fear. Not of dying, but of the unknown. These humans did not fight like anyone he had ever faced. They fought like madness itself had taken shape and come to battle. There were no lines, no formations, no honor, just chaos and confusion and an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. War Master, his executive officer said quietly, "We must withdraw. We cannot fight what we cannot understand." Krell looked at his displays. 30 of his ships were drifting, systems disabled. 20 more were so confused they were barely functional. The remaining 10 were scattered and disorganized. And the human fleet had not destroyed a single vessel. Not one Zetharian had died. They had just been beaten so completely that further fighting was pointless. What we are about to do will shock the galaxy, she said. Some will call us dishonorable. Some will say we broke the rules. But remember this, we never agreed to their rules. We are not bound by traditions that are older than our civilization. We are going to fight a human fight, and we are going to show the galaxy that there is a better way. She paused, looking at each captain in turn. Minimize casualties. That is the prime directive. We are not trying to kill Zetharians. We are trying to beat them so badly that they never want to fight us again. We are going to win this battle, and then we are going to help them repair their ships and send them home. Because that is what humans do. We fight hard, but we show mercy when the fighting stops. The fleet launched the next day. 12 ships instead of 30. The rest remained hidden, kept in reserve for a reason that only the top commanders understood. As the small fleet jumped into hyperspace, heading for the designated combat zone, Ryan stood on his bridge and felt surprisingly calm. The galaxy was about to learn that humans had been preparing for this moment since the first Stone Age tribe figured out that throwing rocks was more effective than fair fistfights. War was about to change forever. In 30 days, the galaxy will see that the Zetharian Empire is not to be challenged by newcomers. But Ven was not convinced. He had lived a long time and seen many confident warriors fall. There was something in Commander Morrison's eyes, something that looked like a person holding a secret. The human had been too calm, too quick to accept, too willing to raise the stakes. As the council session ended and representatives from various species left the chamber, many of them talked about the upcoming battle. Some felt sorry for the humans. Others thought it would be good entertainment. A few, like Ven, wondered if maybe the galaxy was about to see something new. On Earth, the military went into high alert. Admiral Kate Spencer called together the best commanders, engineers, and tactical specialists. They had 30 days to prepare for a battle that would decide humanity's place in the galaxy. We are not going to fight their kind of war, Kate told her assembled officers. We are going to fight a human war, and when we are done, the galaxy is going to realize that the rules just changed.